about interpreting data, and I hope you all have gained some knowledge with regards to the first and the second webinar about Sonra Live and Sonra Desktop. But today we will dive a bit deeper into how to actually use the data. So I want to ask you the following question is, why do we actually use data? Think about that for yourself. For me, it's very clear. It's all about achieving high availability for your players, for your team. Because the more they train and the more matches they play, the performance will be improved. And with data, you're able to monitor your players individually, and at the team-based level, you're able to set clear goals. You can provide insightful information. And with that insightful information, you can give feedback to your players, to your coaches, or other relevant stuff. So at the end, it's all about combining that objective data with your subjective feelings in order to make the best decisions possible. So today we will dive a bit deeper into how to actually use the data and how to interpret the metric dashboards. So I will go through each different dashboard that is possible in Sonra Desktop. So starting with the individual session dashboard and providing you practical examples on how to analyze the data. So with the individual session dashboard, I will show a practical example of analyzing individual match data. Following with the individual period dashboards, where I will show two examples of playing minutes in matches versus the intensity in those matches. Next dashboard will be the session dashboard, providing an example about match analysis, but also giving the data, the physical output, more context. After that, I will show you an example of training analysis for the session drills dashboard. And after that, I will continue with the multiple session dashboard, showing you an example of a weekly load comparison and diving a bit deeper in how to use that during different microcycles. Ending with the last squad period dashboard about different session types and the comparison between those different session types. And all those all those dashboards focusing on external load metrics, but you also want to know how your players respond to those different physical output during different trainings. So I will also provide an example about the internal load measure, heart rate, with, in this case, focusing on the heart rate recovery percentage with the session drills dashboard as example. But before we move on to the individual session dashboard, I want to show you how I've structured the match analysis within the activity graph. So what I've created fixed time drills within segment drills in the activity graph for the first half, for a number of games from Al-Khalish, and also for the second half. And that was based on the duration of 15 minutes, which can be set in the settings and then drills. So what I've created specific period blocks of the match, dividing the first and the second half into 50-minute blocks. So for the first half with extra time, and also for different 15-minute blocks for the second half, to basically build a better structure to analyze the data. In drill editor, you're able to rename those different drills. So what I've changed the names into respectively the first one from 0 to 15 minutes, 15 to 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, and so on. As you can see on the right side, within the individual session dashboard, I've selected those specific 50-minute duration blocks in order to make a full visible dashboard for a total game. So in this case, I've selected one individual And on top, you will see a summary with the metrics of the total duration, so the playing time, the total distance, his max speed during that game, his high speed running, and his explosive distance, and both together, so high speed running and explosive distance together, which means the high metabolic load distance. And below you see two different bar graphs where I visualize the intensity throughout the match. So for distance per minute and for the high metabolic load distance per minute. So because of the reason I've divided both different halves in different 50-minute blocks, I'm able to analyze the intensity throughout the match. So for this examples, this certain individual, you may notice the drop in intensity during the first and the second half for the high intensity. But you can only make conclusions based on contextual factors. So, for example, position changes. And that was the reason for this individual, because he was playing at a midfielder position, but he changed to a central defender position. And as you know, a central defender require less high metabolic load distance per minute. But this can give you a really nice overview to analyze the intensity throughout the match within the individual session dashboard. So before we move on to the individual period dashboard, I want to show you how I've selected multiple sessions in order to visualize a dashboard for a longer period of time. So within the session selector, I've selected 12 different matches, as you can see in here by turning on multi-select. And as you can see, I've selected 12 matches from Al Khalish under 16. And then I was able to visualize the number of playing minutes for a certain individual over time. And this specific individual started with less playing minutes, but ending with more playing minutes during the matches at the end of this period. And even though he increased his number of playing minutes, he was also able to increase his intensity over time. And that is, you're able to see that based on the high metabolic load distance per minute, because it shows a positive trend over time. So this dashboard can provide really useful feedback and in a positive way for a player to to stimulate this player even further. And also, of course, this is really valuable feedback for a coach. Then I have another example within the individual period dashboard for a certain individual that played almost every match. So as you can see, he played consistent every match throughout this period of those matches. And even if even the fact that he played almost every match, he was also able to increase his intensity during those matches based on this positive trend in the high metabolic load distance per minute. So this could be due to the fact that he increased his fitness over time. So again, really valuable information to provide feedback to a player or a coach. To follow up, before I move on to the third dashboard, the session dashboard, I want to show you how I created an analysis for a certain individual. So I've deselect all players, just selecting this one individual on top, as you can see. And now I want to bring you with me in customizing the report. So creating the page layout by excluding all types, but only want to look at the metric table. So as you can see in this session dashboard, I've looked at the distance per minute and the high metabolic load distance per minute, but also specifically focusing on the context of a game. So in this case, I've created drills for the transition phases from offensively to defensively, and from defensively to offensive, but also for offensive and defensive. And as you can see, the intensity for the offensive part, the offensive style of play for this individual was 100 meters per minute for distance per minute and 18 high metabolic load distance per minute. And if you then look and switch to the defensive part, his intensity dropped from 100 to 85 meters per minute. This could be due to his position and his style of play, but it could be also due to the fact that, yeah, he may not like to defend. And then if I switch to the part of the transition phase from offensively to defensively, you will see the distance per minute is 101 meters per minute, and the high metabolic load distance per minute is 22 meters per minute. So if you then switch to the transition phase from defensive to offensively, you notice an increase in intensity. So again, this player might be more likely to be play a big role in the offensive style of play. But as you can see, this information can provide insightful information to visualize next to the context that you're having during a game. Then I want to follow up with a team-based match analysis, again within the session dashboard. So on the right side, you will see I've selected the first and the second half, which will give you the output of the physical output of the total match. So within this match, as you can see, I've also used thresholds for each individual, and this threshold was based on the average three highest values for total distance, high speed running distance, and explosive distance. So that's the reason that you will see only benchmarks for specific individuals, because the other players didn't play more than 3 matches. So as you can see, I've toggled on the thresholds based on full game benchmarks values, and based on the skill colors. As you can see, the color will be red if the value is below optimal within the range of 0 till 75%. It will be orange between 75 and 85%. Between 85 and 105%, it will be green, and above 105%, it will be gold. And this is totally up to you. But I've decided to be able to compare those different outputs for each individual in relation to their own specific benchmark. And because of the reason that it's in relation to his own specific benchmark, you're also able to compare with only the second half, for example. So in this case, I'm only comparing the load of that specific match with the benchmark for all the second half matches. So this is just an example, but you can also analyze the final minutes of a game in comparison with the own benchmarks of that individual. So again, really good feedback to make and base analysis after a match and compare different matches between each other. Then I will move on to an example of training analysis, and within the session drills dashboard. And within this training, we had a focus on the tactical large-sided games of 9v9. So 3 different parts, as you can see, and all those parts were based on a duration of 6 minutes, focusing on the distance per minute, as we want to compare the distance per minute with the most intensive period of 11v11 games. So what I've did is comparing those metrics, this intensity from the distance per minute, with the most intensive periods of 6 minutes. But because this was a training match day -2, we didn't want to overload the players, because we didn't want to accumulate fatigue towards a game. But we also didn't want to underload them. So that was the reason why we've selected 75% of that most intensive period. And as you can see, based on the scale colors, because the first part was 110%, the second part was 101%, and the third part was 99%, we actually achieved our goal to stay approximately around that 75% in relation to the most intensive period. So really good feedback to give to the coach, but this is also possible during the live monitoring. So if you are aware of the specific goals that you've set, so based on the distance per minute, you can really you can easily give feedback after each part during the training if you've reached that intensity, whether or not. So being able to set thresholds during the training. If we then go to the next level within the session drills dashboard, this specific example focused on 10 different games of 7v7 based on a duration of 4 minutes. And because of this 7v7 games, due to the pitch size was a bit smaller than the normal 11v11, we had a focus on the explosive actions per minute. And the explosive actions per minute is a custom metric. So I want to show you how I've created a custom metric in the custom metric calculator. So it's already visible in here, but I want to add a new custom metric to show how you actually create one. So explosive actions per minute. Unit must be changed because of the per minute metric. And I've based these explosive actions on the accelerations per minute and the decelerations per minute. So type in add. As you can see, if you press only D, it won't fill in. And then just hit save. It won't save now because I've already created that custom metric. But a really nice tool to create different metrics. As you can see, I've already created a number of specific metrics. You can rename them, for example, above 20 kilometers an hour, above 25 kilometers an hour, but also the percentage of max speed. But in this training, we had a focus on the explosive actions per minute. And as I said, it was all in relation to a 4-minute based max intensity period. But that max intensity period threshold was based on both the accelerations and decelerations. So as you can see, based on the scale colors, it will show below optimal between 0 and 75%. Between optimal is between 75 and 85%. Between 85 and 100 is over, and excessive is over 100%. So what I didn't told yet is that the first game and the second game and all the other games were all with each different rules. So this will be a really nice training in order to compare those different games with the number of explosive actions in relation to 11v11. So in this case, game number 3, 8, 9, and 10 are coming really close to the numbers of accelerations and decelerations in comparison with the most intensive period. And game number 7 could be used as an overload training based on the explosive actions. So with this information, you can make even better decisions for future training sessions in order to set different goals and improve the physical output of your players based on explosive actions per minute. Then I will move on to a weekly load comparison. And in this case, I have the first week of January, starting with a game against Al Hilal. So it was about a microcycle from Al Ettifaq, who played against Al Hilal on the 2nd of January, followed by a free day, then 3 trainings, then again a free day, and then 4 trainings in preparation of the match against Al Nasser at the 12th of January. So specifically focusing on this microcycle. And as you may notice already, on those specific match days, there were extra sessions specifically focused to compensate the substitutes. And I'm telling you this because I want to transform this week into a periodization microcycle. So what I've created this microcycle as example in Excel. So this is not in Sonra, but I've created this in Excel myself, focusing on specific goals for each different day. So as you can see, these 3 trainings again with 3 days after, with a 3 day after, and again 4 days in preparation of that match against Al Nassr. So for each specific day, you can focus on specific metrics to set your goals. And in this case, this example, um, I've visualized the kilometers. So for total distance, high intensity runs, high intensity sprints, accelerations, decelerations, but also internal load measures like a rate of perceived exertion. And for each specific day, focusing on a specific accent and providing the information whether they had a gym session or not. So as you can see, this specific day focused on power and this specific day on endurance, also with reaching above 95% of max speed. And again, this is just an example, and I know I'm aware this is not the most common microcycle, but just giving you an example of how you could visualize this and setting those goals for specific training days. And you may also notice that I've also created an extra row for the substitutes, because when the starting 11 plays every playing minutes and the substitutes are not playing that much, they could lag behind in terms of physical load. And that's not what you want, because when a starter gets injured, you want them to be able to directly replace the starters. So what is possible with the multiple session dashboard is that you could actually visualize the total training load, the total physical load of that microcycle with the session selector, and visualizing each different training session together with the match within those microcycles. So in this example, I visualized the goals based on total distance metrics, high speed running metrics, and the sprint distance. But that's totally up to you in which metrics you have certain goals on. But again, really nice feature and overview within this dashboard to look back and reflect. Did we actually do what we wanted to do in terms of physical load, or do we needed to do a little bit more with some individuals? So this is a really nice dashboard to visualize that in terms of different microcycles, but also from monthly load comparisons, for example. If I then move on to the session type comparison within the session type dashboard, so this is basically an example of focusing within that specific microcycle. So for this example, I've selected 64 different training sessions from Al Ettifaq with the regards to the different session types from matchday -6 up until matchday -1, and also for matchday +3 and matchday +2. So when selecting that session type dashboard in here, you're able to quickly analyze based on the different metrics. So analyzing only total distance, for example, and really reflect and look back on the specific goals that you had for each day. But also being aware of this is a squad average. So this is for your total team. If you have goals for your total team, you can really easily reflect and look back for each different session type. And ask yourself a question whether if you think this is the best, the most optimal preparation in terms of physical load towards a match. Or you might think, okay, maybe we need to adapt something because we see in internal load in the questionnaires that you may have, or the internal load metrics, that players respond differently, that players accumulated fatigue towards a game, for example. So this dashboard is really valuable in order to analyze during a week, throughout the week, and compare with the database that you've already created for a longer period of time. And the fact that I'm saying with regards to the internal load measure, so comparing with and analyzing with how players respond, brings me to the next slide, which will be about heart rate, because you want to know how players respond to different physical load and physical strain. So in this example, I will show you an example of how to use heart rate recovery percentage within a drill and within a training. So for this example, I've selected the fitness test, and as you can see, the red line on top visualizes the heart rate. This fitness test was about 4 runs, a little bit of rest, 4 runs, and again, and so on. So as you can see, each time the heart rate increased and it decreased between those different runs because of the rest. And what the heart rate recovery percentage actually means is that you're able to look at the ability within an individual to recover quickly. So because of the reason I've created one drill for the fitness test, you're able to look at the ability uh, from a player to recover quickly after that drill. But if you created, for example, different drills for each different 4 or 5 runs within that fitness test, so in total 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different drills, then you will be able to look at the heart rate recovery percentage within those 11 drills. So after each drill, being able to look at the ability within that individual to recover quick. So based on the heart rate recovery percentage, which the duration can be set in settings. As you can see, I've selected 2 minutes, a duration of 2 minutes. So you're able to look at the ability of an individual to recover quickly within 2 minutes. So when selecting the heart rate recovery percentage metric in table configuration, in here I will show you how I've did it. Deleting explosive actions per minute. You can actually have a look at what I mentioned, the ability to recover quickly. So this individual, what this actually means, based on that the fitness test was one total drill, is that this individual, after the fitness test, was able to decrease his heart rate decreased by 40%. And what you can do with this information, because this was just one test, but imagine if you run this test twice every 3 months, for example, you're able to analyze between those different percentages and gain knowledge and gain information about his fitness status in order to see whether he improved his fitness or not. But also imagine that you're able to use this within one specific training, for example, focusing on small-sided games. And if you've created the structure to divide the different parts and blocks in different drills, then you're able to look at the recovery percentage between those different parts. So if a player is not able to decrease his heart rate within those different small-sided games, he might need to work on his anaerobic capacity. So again, a really nice metric in order to gain knowledge about the fitness status of one individual. So as you can see, data shouldn't be used as leading factor, but in a supportive way. And you will create facts besides your perceptions being made, creating that one piece of the puzzle based on other extremely relevant factors as nutrition, sleep, to provide insightful information. And at the end, that's what you want, because you want to improve the performance of your players, of your team, and keeping that availability high in order to being able to level up your game. So are you ready to level up your game? I want to thank you all for your attention, and please reach out if you have any questions. Thank you. Thank you all. Please, if
Super.
you have any questions, just let me know. Oh, sorry, Neve. Go ahead.
No problem. Just before, if there's any questions, just to let you all know, thanks again for participating in all of the webinars. It was great interactions with everyone and great questions. If the certificates will be sent in the next couple of days, if you've completed all 3 webinars, they'll be sent to you, so they will be coming in the coming days. If anyone has any questions, either unmute yourself or pop them into the chat and we can answer them. No problem, Alessandro. Yeah, as we said, guys, if you have any questions afterwards, either drop Tim or myself a message and we'd be more than happy to help as well.
Yeah, always welcome to ask questions, of course.
Okay, guys, I think we'll wrap it up there. There doesn't seem to be any questions. Again, thanks so much for the time across all 3 webinars. It's been great. And thanks to Tim for presenting. They were fantastic webinars, I think you'd all agree. And as we said, guys, any questions, please feel free to ask, and have a great evening and a great weekend. And we'll all speak soon.